stand together, we'll never fall. We can make a difference.
Well, hi there and welcome back to another episode of the All Around Growth Podcast. My name is Rob Kaiser and I am your host. Today is Tuesday, July 25th, 2023, and this is episode number 508 of a continuous series of shows where we talk about personal growth and development in what I like to call all-around growth, which includes, but certainly is not limited to, growth and development in multiple aspects of life. Financial, physical, personal development, family, spiritual, social, and more. And today, the title of the episode is Escaping Negative Influences. And in this episode, we are going to explore the Hawaiian Black Crabs analogy from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And we're going to talk about the significance of avoiding negative influences and surrounding yourself with positive and successful individuals. All right, so what we are going to do today in the show is read from Dan Miller's book, The Rudder of the Day. We're kind of going to do a throwback. This is something that I began to do many years ago in the show, and it's something that I haven't done in quite some time. But I was thinking about where I've come personally over the past few years, how I got to where I am, and some of the things that contributed to that. And one of the things that contributed to that was this show, this book, and ultimately surrounding myself with positive people. And if you're not familiar with this book, we did a number of episodes in the past covering it. And in a nutshell, the gist of this is that the first 60 minutes of each day will set the stage for what that day will hold. Be very careful of how you start your day. In those first few minutes, you are planting the seeds for your effectiveness, influence, health, and spiritual vitality for that day. If you get up late, grab a cup of coffee and a Twinkie, rush to work fighting the idiots in traffic, and drop down exhausted at your desk 10 minutes late, you have just set the tone for everything that will happen that day. Every task will seem like pressure and your best efforts will be greatly diluted. This is a book that is a compilation of stories that Dan Miller has put together to inspire and direct people, largely drawn from the 48 Days newsletter. I've linked to this book and the PDF download in the show notes. And even though this book is not available in print anymore, as far as I can tell on Amazon, there are still some used copies available, which actually are a little bit cheaper than the PDF download. So check that out while they last. It's not an affiliate link. I'm not interested in doing that anymore, at least at this time. Or if electronic copies are your thing, I've also linked to Dan Miller's website where you can download that for $11. So let's jump into it, all right? On page 40, the title of this is Black Crabs, Be One and Die. So we want to be careful of who you allow to influence your thinking and actions. And the reading goes as follows. In the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki tells the story of the Hawaiian Black Crabs. If you go down to the beach early in the morning, you can find black crabs. If you gather them, you can put them in your bucket and continue walking on the beach. Now those crabs start thinking, we're bumping around in this little bucket and making a lot of noise, but going nowhere. Eventually, one crab looks up and thinks, there's a whole new world up there. If I could just get my foot up over the edge, I could get out, get my freedom, and see the world in my own way. So he stretches up, pushes a little, and sure enough, gets one foot over the edge. But just as he is about to tip the balance and go over the edge, a crab from the bottom of the bucket reaches up and pulls him back down. Instead of encouraging him and seeing how they could help each other get to freedom one by one, they pull anyone attempting back down into that confining bucket where death will come quickly. Unfortunately, that's not an uncommon picture of the world in which we live and work. Many of us live around a bunch of black crabs, ready to ridicule any new idea we have, and just as eager to pull us back down to their level of performance. Small thinkers find it much easier to tell you why something won't work than to help you find a solution. People who feel trapped and are struggling at a low level of success are seldom the ones who will cheer you on to a new endeavor. I have found that one of the key characteristics of successful people is that they hang around people who are already performing at the level at which they want to perform. Quote, an individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. Close quote. Martin Luther King Jr. In Killers of the Dream, Lillian Smith wrote, "We in America and men across the earth have trapped ourselves with that word equality, which is inapplicable to the genus man. I wish we would forget it. Stop its use in our country. Let the communists have it. It isn't fit for men who fling their dreams across the skies. It is fit only for a leveling down of mankind. There will be naysayers and whiners. Avoid them. Avoid the black crabs around you. Find winners and spend time with them." And finally, before we ask ourselves the question, or two questions that'll provide some direction for today, we've got a quote from the Bible. And this is from Proverbs chapter 22, verses 24 and 25. Don't make friends with an angry man, and don't be a companion of a hot-tempered man, or you will learn his ways and entangle yourself in a snare. Now finally, before we hit the road, the questions that we're going to ask ourselves for the direction of the day are, who are the black crabs in your life? And how can you avoid them and move on? Or how can you avoid them or move on? And there's a lot of good stuff in this reading today. So I'm going to hit the road, take a few back roads up to the highway, because as far as I can tell, there's a bunch of construction on the regular route. So by taking the back road, I am actually going to likely shave off a couple minutes and save some headache and annoyance in driving. I'm going to save myself from the black crabs of the road. And guys, for me, there have been a lot of black crabs in life. And I'm sure for you too. You can think of many people who are acting as these black crabs in your life. You know, this world that we live in, this world is where we all live as black crabs. In our particular environments as individuals is the bucket that we've been put in by the infinite, indescribable, incomprehensible Creator. Sometimes it's hard to understand why and how we are where we are. And it really doesn't matter how we got to where we are right now, today. But the reality of the situation is, we are here, right now. So what are we going to do about it, I guess is the question. We have the opportunity to let the other black crabs pull us down so we can stay right there with him to our inevitable death, which will come quickly, like we read, or we can continue working to escape. So, first of all, we've got to identify who the black crabs are in our life. And then we've got to think about how we can avoid them or move on. Right? So, maybe we're in this bucket with a number of other black crabs. And if that's the case, and we continue to try to get out, we may find ourselves getting pulled back down. But look, guys, this is an analogy, right? This is the nature of black crabs. It's what they do when they're in a bucket. But here's something to understand. We are not black crabs. Okay, we have the ability to change our life. We have the ability to do something different with ourselves if we're not happy with our current set of circumstances. If we're not happy with our circumstances, we may not be happy with our financial life. We may be in debt. We may not be happy with our own physical health and well-being. We may not be happy with our current state of our own personal development. We may not be happy with our family lives. We may not fully understand how spiritual life is, and that life really is little else other than a spiritual journey. And the fact that we don't understand this is a big part of what holds us back and keeps us down. We may be upset with our social status, the fact that we don't have very many friends, or the fact that the friends that we do have are actually the black crabs that keep trying to keep us at their level. We also may be upset with our careers. So what do? Right? Now, a lot of the reason why I talk about Dan Miller in this show is because Dan Miller has given me a lot of tools to put in my own proverbial toolbox, to repattern my thinking, to understand that I am responsible for my life, to understand that I am responsible for making change, that I have the ability to do that as long as I put in the work. In the beginning, especially of this show, the work consisted of reading things like this and talking about things like this and beginning the act of repatterning and reprogramming. And it wasn't just this show. This show is where I first started talking about that. The act of repatterning and reprogramming began long before that. But this show, when it started, is when I first started talking about it. And it takes work, and it takes time, and we have to be patient with ourselves. But when we do the work and we do it consistently, we get results. The more we put in, the more we get out. But ultimately, it works the same way. Garbage in, garbage out. If we continue to fill ourselves with good quality information and surround ourselves with winners and actually do the work that is required, that is the key point, then we begin to achieve results and experience the things that we desire. If we continue to fill ourselves with information and don't actually do anything with it, then all we do, the end result is just continued feelings of anxiety. We worry about the past. We're anxious about the future. We're not present in our life right now. And that's what happens when we don't execute, right? There's no sense in worry. There's no sense in worrying about the past and what might happen. Because the past is the past. We can't change it. It is what it is. There's also no sense in being anxious about the future. Because the future is full of uncertainty and variables. But there are no variables in anything unless we do something different today. So the future is entirely dependent on right here, right now, in this very moment. I especially like what Lillian Smith wrote in Killers of the Dream, something I'm not familiar with. She wrote, "We in America and men across the earth have trapped ourselves with that word equality, which is inapplicable to the genus man. I wish we would forget it. Stop its use in our country. Let the communists have it. It isn't fit for men who fling their dreams across the skies. It is fit only for a leveling down of mankind." Now that might be something to look into, and I'll try to add that to the show notes as well. Killers of the Dream by Lillian Smith. But there's been a big push for quite some time, for as long as I've been alive and longer, for equality. You know, women's rights, this right, that right, rights, 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 equality. And I'm not here to talk about any kind of political thing, right? Or, you know, inject some sort of narrative into this. Right? I'm not here to talk about any one particular group of individuals, how they're being oppressed, why they're being oppressed, or whatever. The fact of the matter is, guys, that oppression, inequality, it's something that's existed since the dawn of mankind. It's unfortunate, but it's reality. Okay, it's life on life's terms. Sometimes life sucks. All right? So, what do we do? Now, what do we do about it? We seek people who can help us get beyond that. Viktor Frankl wrote a book whose name is escaping me right now, but this has come up in conversation a lot lately with people I've surrounded myself with. Viktor Frankl, if I'm not mistaken, spent time in a concentration camp. He did not let his circumstances dictate his mindset. He did not let the black crabs of his oppressors keep him down or influence the way in which he thought. He rose above it. And he was in a concentration camp, for God's sake. You know, for all of us that think we have it bad in life, oh, my job sucks. Oh, you know, I've got problems. You're not in a concentration camp, right? It's important for us to understand this and learn about others and understand where they're at and why they're at, like where they're at and why they're doing the things that they're doing. Because, you know, we're pretty privileged people, and when we understand that, it puts a lot of things in context. And I would venture to guess that pretty much anybody listening to this show falls into that category of privileged people. So what are you going to do with that privilege, right? What do we do? If we're not satisfied with our life, then we can make change. So why don't we make change? We don't make change because of fear and pain. Fear of the unknown. And pain in that the pain of change oftentimes overrides the pain of staying the same. You know, again, we read, it's not an uncommon picture of the world in which we live and work. Many of us live around a bunch of black crabs ready to ridicule any new idea we have. And they are just as eager to pull us back down to their level of performance. Small thinkers find it much easier to tell you why something won't work than to help you find a solution. A few years ago, I decided that I wasn't happy with the current state of affairs with my life, that I wasn't happy with the current trajectory of my life. So I decided to start taking action to change it. I made sacrifices in life. I saved up some money. I paid off my debts. I worked harder than I'd ever worked and longer than I'd ever worked, and lived differently than I'd ever lived so that I could make that change. And I didn't know what that change was, but it had to be something different than what I was doing. I found myself oftentimes surrounded by people that didn't seem to me to be real happy. They complained a lot of the time about a lot of things. I got this car payment. I'm too fat. I'm not sleeping well. I'm stressed out. My family life sucks. I'm miserable. My kids hate me. I'm fighting with my husband. I'm fighting with my wife. I don't have any friends. Or or I have too many friends. But all we do is sit around and talk about how much our life sucks, and how much our job sucks, and how old we are, our bones creaking, all of that. So I didn't know what to do. I found ways to get involved with my community. Started going to church, started getting involved with volunteer organizations, started exposing myself to new people, new things, started going to book studies, started engaging in my community. But first and foremost, like I said, I made sacrifices and I paid off my debts. I followed Dave Ramsey's path to financial freedom, utilizing the tools in Financial Peace University, 7 simple steps, which I'm still working on today. I've actually had to revisit some of those steps because I have a little bit of debt now, medical debt, from things that have happened recently. No worries, it's all good. The steps are simple. They're simple steps for complicated people. I don't know about you, but I'm a complicated person. I overthink a lot of things. I make things far more complicated than they need to be because much of the way I live my life is driven by fear and pain. Once I got a handle on my finances and realized that I didn't need some of the things that were keeping me in the way that I was that I was living. I didn't need my current job. I didn't really need much of anything. I could go clean toilets. There's a lot of things I can do to make a buck to support myself and support my family. And even though I don't have, a lot of people that are listening, you guys know I don't have kids. So what do I mean support my family? Well, I live with people. I live with family. I need to contribute there so that we can actually keep the house and the land in which we live. You don't have to have children to have family. You can have a family within your church community. You can have a family within your circle of friends. You can have family within the volunteer organizations that you're a part of. They're not your blood, but they're your family. So in order to keep all that going, the unfortunate reality is that it requires money. But when you're not bound by the shackles and chains of consumer debt, then all of a sudden a whole new world of opportunity opens itself up to you. And you can realize that you can make change. But if you're not willing to make the sacrifice, then nothing's going to change. And if nothing changes, nothing changes. And that, my friends, is why so many of us, including myself, for so long remained miserable. I took in a lot of information. I listened to a lot of things. But if nothing changes, nothing changes. I finally had to make a change. And I finally had to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I finally had to put myself into new situations with new people and expose myself to new ideas and actually take action on them in order to make said change. There were a lot of people in my life that they didn't know that they were doing it. It wasn't necessarily a conscious effort on their part to be black crabs and to ridicule new ideas and pull me back down to their level of performance. It's just that they didn't know any better. They lived lives of ignorance for the most part. And if it was not something that they were actually ignorant of, it was because they were too goddamned afraid to do anything about it. Because, let's face it, it's comfortable maintaining this level of complacency in life. As long as we're comfortable, as long as we have the nice things and we can go out to the nice places with the nice people. You go on vacations and, get away from all the things that bother us for a short amount of time and until we have to go back to those things which bother us. And then we continue working just so we can escape it. The hell kind of life is that? Why not try something different? For a long time, I didn't, because I was afraid. And I never made any change until the pain of staying the same began to become greater than the pain of change. And it was then and only then that I changed. In a sense, I had to hit rock bottom. Spiritually, socially, emotionally, physically, in all manner of ways. I had to hit some sort of bottom before I decided that I could do something different, that I could be someone better. And it's not just about me being better. It's about understanding that being better isn't just me being a better person, doing better things. It's about me actually behaving and operating in a manner that's consistent with trying to engage in activities that allow me to live in a manner that's consistent with the image and likeness of the previously mentioned indescribable infinite creator. Right? Because if I just continue to go about doing things to better myself without understanding there's something not of this world that's far greater than me, then it's a misguided approach. At least it was for me. When I began to do the things that I did differently, I was reluctant to communicate them to a lot of people because at that time I wasn't necessarily equipped to do so. I didn't have the skills that I found, looking back now, would have been helpful. So I did the best I could, and inevitably we all say if we could do it again, we'd have done some things differently. Well, sure, but here's the thing. We can't change the past. And like I said, the future's uncertain. But I can do something different today. I can continue to surround myself with good people doing good things and talk with them and cultivate relationships and build and grow. And oftentimes that means making sacrifices. I don't know what sacrifice looks like for you. I know what it is for me. And I couldn't get anywhere in life until I decided to make some kind of sacrifice. So that's what I started to do. I made sacrifice. I engaged in change. I took action. And I did it consistently. And I pray that I can continue to do so consistently Because for me, I've spent a long time, more than half of my life, thinking and behaving a certain way. It's going to take a long time for me to understand and actually implement consistently some of the things that I've been reading and learning about and repatterning myself with over the past few years to understand that my future life will consist of a reality that's far different from the reality that I live in now. And the reality that I live in now is far different from the reality that I lived in just a few short months ago and a few years ago. My life has been nothing but a constant state of change. And for those of you who listen to this show, you understand that. That's who I am. That's what I do. And that's why this show is what it is. Because it's about all-around growth. I really don't think that we can continue to, well, not continue to, I really don't think that we can change. All right, listen to this. I really don't think that we can change unless we change. But I get it. Change is hard. It's uncomfortable. We don't want to do it. And so frequently because we don't. So we stay the same. And we continue to take in information. And we continue to read the books. And we continue to listen to the podcasts. And we continue to watch the YouTube videos. And we continue to dream. And then when those dreams don't materialize, we continue to be sad. Don't you see any patterns here? If nothing changes, guys. We need to identify the black crabs in our life. Who they are, where they are, and if for today we can't escape the black crabs in our life, then it's up to us to go find new crabs. It's up to us to change the environment in our life. And if we can't simply change it, then create it. The only thing holding you back in life is you. And I know that, and I can speak from personal experience because for a long time, the only thing holding me back in life was me. It wasn't my job, it wasn't my boss, it wasn't my friends, it wasn't my family, it wasn't my whatever. It wasn't anything but me. I am responsible. I was the problem. But I was never able to do anything about the problem because I was too busy projecting all of that bullshit on everyone else around me and talking about, you know, how they were responsible for my own problems. No, that's not how this works. I'm responsible for my own financial well-being. I'm responsible for my own physical health and wellness. I'm responsible for my own personal development. I'm responsible for taking action to cultivate a healthier relationship within my family. I'm responsible for my own spiritual growth and development. I'm responsible for changing my social circles. I'm responsible for the happiness that comes as a result of my career. And I'm responsible for changing my career if I can't find any of that. I am wholly responsible for everything that happens in my life because it doesn't happen to me. It just happens. But what happens to me is how I choose to respond to the things that just happen naturally. And for a long time, that's not what I was doing. For a long time, I was simply reacting to those things. There's a difference between responding and reacting. I didn't know that. I've only recently learned that reacting is kind of like a response, except it's quick. And it doesn't involve a lot of thought, effort, and energy. The response is something that takes time. We think about it. We pray about it. We sleep on it. We talk about it with others. And then we respond. So little in life requires a reaction. Almost everything in life requires a response. So much in life is important, but very little of it is urgent. But we don't know any better. So we act as if everything is urgent. And if everything is urgent, nothing is urgent, right? Everything is important. Not everything is urgent. So guys, I'm going to wrap it up here because as you can tell, I'm driving. We're coming in from the road again today on my way up to the big city. Got a lot of errands to run. Produce pickups, Asian market. Got to get supplies to make the fermented foods because that's what life is now. Come a long way over the past few years. And again, this is only the beginning because I don't know what tomorrow's got in store. It's plausible that I could get hit by a gravel truck on the way home today and there would be no tomorrow. So I'm going to make the best of what I can do today. I'm going to continue surrounding myself with people that don't ridicule the new ideas that I have, that aren't eager to pull me back down to their level of performance. I'm going to continue to surround myself with people who want to help lift me up, that understand where I'm at, where I'm going, because chances are they're doing something similar. And I don't care if you work in a factory, or if you cut grass, or you work in a restaurant, or you're an author. I don't care what you do. But what I do care about is your approach to how you live. And if you're in a constant state of seeking to improve yourself, not solely and simply for yourself, but to improve yourself so as to be a better person, one in which in the image and likeness of his own creator, then you're the kind of person that I want to be around. So if you find that you are that person, then send me an email at allaroundgrowth@gmail.com. Join us in the Telegram group at t.me/allaroundgrowth, because there's a whole bunch of other people out there in our little community on Telegram that are doing exactly that. There's a whole lot of people there too that linger, don't participate, because you know what? I don't think they're one of us. So either, do what you do, or don't. But just remember, if nothing changes, nothing changes. All right, guys, thank you for listening today. I look forward to catching you on the next episode, and I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful week ahead. This is Rob Kaiser, and thank you.
In a world of pain, what can I do? The needs are many and answers are few. People turn away and I wonder why. If I can help somebody, then I want to try. People may think that it's odd that I believe in friendship and love, and truth is always the best way to the world that may seem odd. I'm an odd fellow. I'm an odd fellow. I'm an odd fellow. If we stand together, we'll never fall. We can make a difference and answer the call. You know the times are wasting every day, and we can help somebody along the way. People may think that it's odd that I believe